she danced close to me like I hoped she would. Oh yeah, something tells me I'm into something good. We only danced for a minute or two, and then she stuck close to me the whole night through. Can I be the one in love? She's everything I've been dreaming of. She's everything I've been dreaming of. I walked her home and she held my hand. I knew it wouldn't be just a one-night stand. So I asked to see her next week, and she told me I could. Oh yeah.
Hey guys, good evening everybody. Welcome to Wise Music. Really glad you can make it. Let's shine the spotlight on a special individual who has left an indelible mark on our industry. Give a warm welcome to Harvey Lisberg. Ow! In 2010, I was part of a publishing venture that had the fortune of representing Harvey's gem of a catalog. And when I moved over to Wise a few years back, I had the fortune of having Harvey come with me. I could go on, but I will not. But I do want to say that in addition to all the great business we've done, I've made a great friend, you know? Yeah. The night before I proposed to my lovely bride in Joshua Tree, we had an amazing evening with Harvey and Carol, his lovely bride, both of them knowing that I was to propose the next day, but obviously not my wife. And she said yes, I guess, which is good for me. But that's the kind of stuff you don't forget, you know? I received an outstanding audio missive from Sir Tim Rice, the legendary lyricist of Evita, Chess, Beauty and the Beast, a whole bunch of other ones as well. And it's great. We got to listen to it real quick, all right?
Harvey Lisberg is a force of Mancunian nature. Despite this disadvantage, he triumphed for a quarter of a century in the white-hot music revolution that was the swinging 60s and the suave, sophisticated 70s. Many distinguished artists swam into his ken, including Peter Noone and Herman's Hermits, Graham Gouldman and 10cc, and even Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice, albeit briefly, who somehow managed to survive without him. Luckily, my friendship with Harvey is still going strong, albeit he is now a cool breeze of Californian nature. Read his memoir, and you'll be into something good.
Nice. I love that. Okay, we've got several treats for you tonight. I'll hand the mic off to Harvey and Charlie in just a second to rap about their funny, insightful, and thoroughly entertaining romp into something good out on our publishing house, Omnibus Press. Also, I'm assuming that you, like me, are super excited for a performance by one of the primary architects of the British invasion, General Charles Cornwallis. Wait, sorry. Okay, that was lame. I'm sorry, I had to. But seriously, we can't wait for Peter and Vance to come up here and hit us with some rockin' and historic music. Harvey, Charlie, come on down.
Thank you very much for that wonderful, untrue, definitely, introduction. And this is my friend Charlie, who is great.
Evening, everyone. Yeah, we should just say, before we start, thanks to Jeff and Bobby Marcus for setting up this evening. They faced a few logistical issues along the way, but it's all come together, and thanks everyone for coming. And Caitlin, yes. Caitlin, thanks for booking my hotel. So Harvey and I go back just over 10 years now. I made a documentary for the BBC about 10cc, which has yet to see the light of day in America, but maybe one day that'll take place. But Harvey and I became good friends and have stayed friends ever since. And a couple of years ago, he called me and said, look, I think my life story might make a book. Would you help me? So I went and stayed with him for a week in Palm Springs, and those conversations formed the basis of what became this book. And I discovered talking to him that he had indeed had an incredible life, And it was kind of a charmed life, certainly for the first few years, but not all of it was charmed. We might just touch on some of the things that weren't perfect. So there was the issue that we just touched on there with Tim Rice and Andrew Lloyd Webber. Just tell us, Harvey, about when they first came into your life.
Well, they came into my life just after Herman's Hermits had some success. I got a call from this very nicely spoken Englishman, said, "Can we come up and see you? We've got a song for Herman's Hermits." So I said, "Sure, come up." They came up to the office. We had this horrible office on top of a Chinese restaurant with the smell of curry wafting through everywhere, and everywhere was really horrible. And then these two hippie-type people came through, Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice, with long hair and very collegey. We've got this song, it's called I Fancy You, and can you get it to Herman's Hermits? I said, well, yeah, I'll give it to Mickey Most.
And of course, this was nobody knew who they were at this stage, was it? This was
No.
like, what, 66, 67 or something?
I think so, yes. It was, maybe 65. I'm not sure. Yeah, 65, I think. And it was really funny. So I sent it to Mickey Most, who rejected it immediately. And I said, well, have you got anything else that's interesting? They said, oh, we've just done this play, Joseph in the Dreamcoat. I said, Joseph from the Bible? I said, yeah. I said, oh, that'll be great. The evangelicals in America are going to lap this up. Brilliant. So I took it to 15 record companies. I was probably about the third most powerful manager at the time, so I didn't have to go through the fourth secretary's fifth boyfriend to see the head of the company, and they automatically rejected it. Every single person couldn't stand it. So I decided there was something there, and in spite of all the protestations of all the musicians and many writers that I represented, they all didn't like the material, but I thought there's something there. So I gave Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice a contract, which was a management development contract. And after 2 years, paying them about £5 a week, maybe $8 each a week, to keep the wolves at bay, we had a decision to make whether to renew it or not. And they said, we've got something new. I said, yeah, what's that? Jesus Christ Superstar. And I said, yeah, okay. Well, I thought about it, and then I'm from a very narrow-minded Jewish community in Manchester. And as one of their stars hit manager, the prospect of promoting Jesus Christ would not go down well with the local population. So although I'm not making that the excuse why we didn't renew the contract, it certainly was a contributing factor. And they slipped through my hands, but I remained friendly with them. And Tony Christie, my next artist, was on Evita and so forth. And I've always been in touch with Tim Rice, and he wrote a song with Graham Goulman called The Monkey and the Onion. So I love Tim Rice. Andrew was a perfectionist, unbelievable. In Evita, he used to go every single night to the performance after it had been a huge success, changing things. And his success is due to his perfectionism. And Tim Rice was an excellent lyricist, and I'd like to thank them both for all the wonderful music that I've enjoyed in their lifetime. And the invasion of America, turning it from being an American Broadway to an English Broadway.
The other thing I'd like to touch on with Harvey is that he was Manchester through and through, and very unlike the rest of the music industry that headed for London, he refused. He stayed in Manchester and was like, I'm going to look after and nurture Manchester talent. And that is how Herman's Hermits came to be, 10cc, and many other local talents, which I think was a very brave and important thing for Manchester to be put on the musical map. But when Herman's Hermits were touring America, where they became more popular than they did back home, they had some unusual touring bedfellows, which you would really not expect to put together, including in 1967, before The Who became famous. The Who toured as support acts, basically, didn't they? And you actually had to kind of look after all The Who, including one Mr. Moon.
Yes, very interesting character, Mr. Moon, as you probably all know. After each gig, we were the headliner, obviously, Herman's Hermits, and it was very good for anybody to get on our tour because we would sell out everywhere and they would manage to expose themselves to the American public and the DJs, etc. So at 2:30 in the morning, when we'd finished playing, Peter, myself, Lek, used to play a card game called Bragg. And the boys were drinking, we'd play, and I got a call on the phone, 2:30 in the morning. This is the manager of the hotel, Birmingham, Alabama. Is that a Miss Lisberg? I said, yes, it is. I've got something to report. I said, yeah, what's that? He says, the toilet in Mr. Moon's room is not there. And I said, what? What could he say? What do you mean? He said, well, put it this way. It's not attached to the wall anymore. Keith had decided to drop about 15 cherry bombs down this toilet. It dislodged itself, took it from the wall. I think we were banned from the Holiday Inns for God knows how long. And as the headliner, we had to take care of everything, and I was responsible. So that was one of my incidents with Keith Moon. I loved him, by the way. He was a great drummer. And Carl Green from Herman's Hermits, I'm sure, was really envious that he wasn't in the band. And the other thing that happened on that tour was rather interesting, was that a certain new artist called Bruce Springsteen, who never appeared before, went to see Herman's Hermits and was so blown away with The Who that night that he decided to become a professional full-time musician. So I'll give my credit to Bruce for seeing Herman's Hermits. They deserve that.
I mean, you as a manager, one of your many qualities was spotting a hit, looking after your bands, not trying to screw them like a lot of managers did. You came across some other managers, though, who weren't so scrupulous. Maybe Alan Klein would fit into that category?
I think he would get an A1. An A1, definitely. He was the most unbelievable person I've ever met, as far as a manager was concerned. I mean, there's only one story that I can tell that will explain how I felt about him. I went to his office. He was a small man, and he had a desk which was at least 3 feet higher than anybody else in the room. You had to look up at him. And he comes down from his desk, he walks behind me, and he had the most foul breath I have ever known anybody in my life to have. So I said to him, would you like a mint or some chewing gum? And he said, I know I've got bad breath. It's quite intentional. So that was my, I looked at him and thought, this is a monster. I couldn't believe it. And there were other monsters.
You were good friends of Peter Grant too, weren't you?
I love
Peter Grant had a reputation for being a bit of a monster, but you really liked him, didn't you?
He was a pussycat. He came to our house, Carol and myself. Carol was a very, very good chef. And he came to the house, sat down on a chair and broke it immediately. It was about £400 at the time. And that was the beginning of my friendship with Peter. And he gave me tickets to see Led Zeppelin. And before we went to the concert, he said, have you got any cotton wool in the house? I thought, cotton wool? Well, what's that got to do with Led Zeppelin? He said, you might need some to put in your ears. I've got you in front of the bass amplifier. We were 4 rows from this bass amplifier. And even with the cotton wool, we were being blasted out of the... And the other story about Peter, which I think is my favourite, is the one relating to Los Angeles, where we were here. I was with my parents, and Peter, who was a close friend, we decided we wanted to go and get some steak. So I booked a table at Lowry's Steakhouse, which was the place to go to get any decent meat, if you're not vegetarian, that is. And we went there, and we were in 2 cars. I went in with my parents, and the guy at the desk said, I'm very sorry, you can't come in here without a jacket. So in my arrogant English manner, I said, well, get me one. So they went and got me a jacket and put it on. And I said quietly, by the way, the 4th member of our party, you might have a bit of difficulty getting, he's rather large. We can fit anybody. I said, fine. And Peter Grant walked through the door, and the guy said, I pass.
10cc, obviously, a very important part of your career. You had to deal with the split, obviously, which was pretty difficult, especially as at the time Lol and Kevin, Godley and Cream, had this crazy idea to do something called Consequences, which turned into a triple album with Peter Cook.
Yes, that was a holiday camp, to say the least. It was going to be a single album, turned out to be a triple album, totally impossible to sell, and it took place in a manor in Oxfordshire, where, as I say, a holiday camp. There were beautiful girls serving food all day, drugs and God knows what was going round. Nothing seemed to be done, and Peter Cook was permanently drunk whenever I saw him. But I spoke to Lol a few weeks ago, and he told me he wasn't drunk always. We put him in bed at about 11 o'clock, and at 3 o'clock he woke up. He read all the papers, did all the crosswords, got himself together, did everything he had to do, got himself dressed, came down at 9 o'clock, bright as a bell, ready to go in the studio. We, in the meantime, arrived at 9 o'clock for breakfast, hungover, not knowing where we were. And by the time we managed to stagger in the studio at 11 o'clock, Peter Cook was blind drunk again.
What was the best song that you were involved with 10cc, do you think?
Well, you'd have to say I'm Not in Love, because that was monstrous. And when I heard that for the first time in the studio, unmixed, after about 20 seconds, I thought that's probably the best thing that I've ever heard. But I also liked One Night in Paris and other things which were kind of different genre. I'm Not in Love had the atmosphere. It just had something that was, it'll go on forever. It just had something. It was original. The only trouble, it was long, and we had a problem thinking, would the DJs play a song that was 6 minutes long? Anyhow, we overcame that, and there have been quite a few records since then of that length, and other people have been accused of copying it, the length and everything. And there's terrific similarity between 10cc and Queen musically at that stage, but I think they were both brilliant bands.
Okay, well, look, Harvey, we're going to wrap up and hand over to the main event of the evening. But before we do that, I'm just going to set it up by reading an extract from the moment where Herman's Hermits went from being completely unknown to legends both in England and in America. So, I'm Into Something Good was released on the 7th of August 1964. 2 weeks later, it entered the charts at number 40, sandwiched between two Lennon and McCartney songs, I Should Have Known Better by the Naturals and Like Dreamers Do by the Applejacks, 9 places below the highest new entry, Elvis Presley's Such a Night. The Beatles themselves were at number 2 with A Hard Day's Night, one off the top spot which was held by Manfred Mann's Do Wha Diddy. We were beside ourselves to be in such exalted company. Quite a promising start, but was it just down to our fans? A week later, we had the answer. We were up 15 places to number 25. Being in the top 30 meant an appearance on Top of the Pops, the new BBC chart show that had rapidly become the place to be seen. With Peter's natural TV charisma, it had to take us higher. What's more, the studios were in Manchester, so it was like a home from home. Throughout September, the single kept on climbing. From 25, it went to 18, then to 7, and on up to 3. Then, on 24th of September, the impossible happened. I'm Into Something Good went to the top of the charts, knocking the Kinks' You Really Got Me off its perch. From nowhere, Herman's Hermits were suddenly the number 1 singles group in the country, and everyone was talking about us. The teen magazines went mad for Peter. They all wanted him on their covers. Didn't stop there. With America having completely succumbed to what was now being called the British invasion, they couldn't get enough of us limeys. American record companies were scouring the British charts to see what was new. MGM were quickest off the block with us. They did a deal to release I'm Into Something Good in September, and within weeks it was climbing the Billboard Hot 100. Going to number 1 in the UK was incredible, but this was beyond our wildest expectations. We'd never even thought about American success. We'd spent December 1964 lodged inside the top 20, reaching a peak of 13. Our timing couldn't have been better. So with that, we shall hand you over to Peter and Vance.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Peter Noon, the artist who, as a kid, 15-year-old kid, I was discovered by Harvey Lisberg, a lady was on the... This is my part of the story. Some of the things I remember are the things that really happened. And Phil Canis, who ultimately was my accountant, his wife and he were on a thing called Ferry Cross the Mersey, which was a ship that went out into the Atlantic, I think it is there, outside of Liverpool, so that English people could drink all night, because they would go sailing, and we would do reeling and rocking, a song called Well, the Joint Was Rocking, going rock, for hours and hours and hours, as English men and women slid around in their own beer and vomit and tried to dance. And apparently this lady saw us and had dinner at Harvey Lisberg's parents' house. And Harvey said, I'm leaving university and I'm going to be like Brian Epstein. I'm going to get a band and make them famous like the Beatles. And she said, I saw this kid, Pete Novak. We used to change our name every week in those days. If we had a bad gig, we'd get a new name. So I'd been Pete Novak, and Harvey came to see us in this little club in Bolton, and we told the audience, our friends, that a famous American manager was coming to see us, and would they scream during the show? And of course, they screamed in all the wrong places, you know. Ah! And all stuff like that. So what I'm going to do, this is the song that Harvey laid on us. We were 15, we were teenagers. We went in the studio, we were all 15-year-old boys, and we had this, excuse me, this is not a 15-year-old boy. This is an 82-year-old deaf guitar player. If you hear any feedback, it's his hearing aid needs a new battery. I'm into something good. Woke up this morning feeling fine, 'cause there's something special on my mind. Last night I met a new girl in the neighborhood. Oh yeah. Something tells me I'm into something good. Good one, isn't it? She's the kind of girl who's not too shy, and I can tell I'm her kind of guy. She danced close to me like I hope she would. Something tells me I'm into something good. We only danced for a minute or two, and then she stuck close to me the whole night through. Can I be falling in love? She's everything I've been dreaming of. I walked her home and she held my hand. I knew it could be just a one-night stand. So I asked to see her next week, and she told me I could. I asked to see her, and she told me I could. Something tells me I'm into something good. 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 Yeah, number one. Hey, what else should we do, Vance? Oh yeah, this was the follow-up. Don't know much about history. Don't know much biology. Don't know much about science books. Don't know much about the French I took, but I do know that I love you, and I know that if you love me too, what a wonderful world this would be. Don't know much about geography, don't know much trigonometry, don't know much about algebra, don't know what a slide rule is for. one and one is two. And if this one could be with you, what a wonderful world this would be. Now I don't claim to be an A student, but I'm trying to be. Maybe by being an A student, baby, I could win your love for me. Don't know much about history, don't know much biology, don't know much about science books, don't know much about the French I took, but I do know that I love you, and I know that if you love me too, what a wonderful world this will be. Harvey, what do you want to hear now? Has he left already? You know, it's a dream come true for me here tonight because as a small child growing up in Liverpool and Manchester, one of my dreams was to play in Santa Monica on West 6th Street and tonight that dream is coming true, and it's just... Thank you, Harvey, for this. Thank you. Listen, people, okay. You know, this one, what happened was Harvey was a fantastic manager because we had no idea what was going on, and he knew that we just wanted to work. That's all we wanted. We didn't want... He made record deals and everything, but there was a whole element of English boys and girls at the time, and Irish boys and girls, and Scottish boys and girls, Welsh ones, who just wanted to sing and play. And it was the Beatles and the Searchers and Jerry and the Pacemakers and Freddie and the Dreamers and the Honeycombs and the Searchers, and it just went on and on and on, and we all kind of knew each other. We all sort of knew each other because we were not competitors. We were all different. We weren't... The Hermits weren't like the Who, and the Who weren't like the Beatles, and the Beatles weren't like the Stones, and so we were all able to sort of live and breathe together and say, what you doing? Oh, I'm going to America and all that and that. You know, and I would have said if I said, hey, fellas, guess where I'm going to be playing one day? West 6th Street. But no. So, hey, we're going to do, listen, it's a beautiful song. When we recorded it, it was the strangest thing. We were on a we were signed, Harvey signed it to us, a 3-motion picture deal. 3 major motion picture deals with Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer. And of course they thought that all groups were like the Beatles. They were shocked that there were 5 of us. Oh, well, it's only, there's 5, only groups only have 4 in, don't they? And we were 5, and we were on this TV, this set, and we saw Liberace, and they told us that we were going to do, it's a quick story, they told us that we had to do a Gershwin song. So me and the Hermits had learned, I'm biding my time, because that's the kind of guy I am, which was really cool. But we looked into the studio, and Connie Francis was taking me around, introducing me to everybody. I looked in the studio, and there's Liberace singing a song called Aruba Liberace, like Aruba Liberace. I go, wait a second, this doesn't sound like a Gershwin song. I said, well, you know, it's Liberace, he wanted to do a song, another song. So, oh, well, we want to do another song. Well, what have you got? And they sent us into the Foley room to make a record. And the Foley room was where they, you know, they had like a couple of coconuts to make horse. It was the soundtrack, the sound effects room, and we didn't know that. Oh, they're in the Foley room. Oh, we'll go in the Foley room. And we all stood around a microphone, and we recorded this song, and it, you can tell it was recorded in the Foley room. We were now 16. Listen, people, to what I say, everybody's got to have their day, and don't you know that everybody's got to love somebody sometimes, everybody's got to win a heart. Yes, everybody's got to love somebody sometime. When you do, I hope you never part. I once found love found love just like you. But then he came, and he might come to you. And don't you know that everybody's got to lose somebody sometimes, but everybody can part. Yes, everybody's got to lose somebody sometimes, so take care you don't lose your heart. Won't you take my advice? You will find you'll be happy all of the time. And take my advice, you will see you'll be happy as you can be. Great song, Harvey. Listen, people, to what I say, everybody's got to have their day. And don't you know that everybody's got to love somebody sometimes, everybody's got to win a heart. Yes, everybody's got to love somebody sometime. When you do, I hope you never part. You never part. Listen, people. Listen, people. Listen, people. Graham Goulman's song. There was a bit of nepotism going on because Harvey was Graham Goulman's brother-in-law. So we got to look at all Graham's songs before anybody else got a look at them. Unfortunately, Mickey Mouse didn't like any of Graham Goulman's songs, probably because he wouldn't give him any of the publishing. So we did Bus Stop, and it never got released as a single. Let's do a bit of Bus Stop so they know what we're talking. Bus stop with there, she's there, I say, please share my umbrella. Bus come, bus go, she's there, love grows under my umbrella. All that summer we enjoyed it, wind and rain and shine. That umbrella we employed it, by August she was mine. Just a snippet. Not a great song. See, all Graham's songs are about Manchester, so we were the obvious. That's a song about a bus stop. I mean, what else could you get in a bloody rainy place like Manchester? People standing at a bus stop, oh yeah. And we did No Milk Today, which was in No Milk Today. There's the terraced houses that you can see all around. They go like here. No milk today, my love has gone away. The bottle stands for love, the symbol of the poor. No milk today, it seems a common sight. The people passing by don't know the reason why. How could they know just what this message means? The end of my hopes, the end of my dreams. How could they know a palace had been behind the door and my love reigned as queen? No milk today, my love has gone away. The bottle stands for love, a symbol of the dawn. But all that's left is a place dark and lonely, a terrace house in a busy back of town. Becomes a shrine when I think of you only. Just two up, two down. Just two up, two down. Short in the morning. So we got off. We came to America, and I remember that we were kind of shocked. We opened the tour. We were all teenagers, and our first concert was in a high school in Allentown, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And Gene Kay was this famous disc jockey, and we knew that disc jockeys were the most important people in our lives. And we just knew that. And Gene Kay introduced us, and the Hermits went out. And strangely, we started off with the intro to Reelin' and Rockin', even though we were not going to do it. And they go, ladies and gentlemen, direct from England, Herman's Hermits. And the Hermits started playing, and I walked on stage, and everybody in the high school joined us on stage and started ripping our clothes off. And we tried to stop them because we just knew. We'd just never seen girls like that before. And we were happy to, share our clothes. And then the tour began, and we the next day, I think we went to Dallas. It's all a bit, because I did a lot of drugs. No, I didn't know. I know, but I did. I was a lot of forgetful. But we went to Dallas, and they couldn't get us to the terminal because there were too many teenage girls in the terminal. And I remember the faces on those businessmen. In those days, businessmen all dressed as if they were going to play golf. They had maroon jackets and white trousers. And I can remember thinking, who are these long-haired? Is it the monkeys or something? And it was the most amazing. And a motorcade drove us through Dallas with the motorcycles and all that stuff, Pretty amazing, big deal for Hermits to come to America. So and I had this thing going, I had an English accent. And everyone was talking now, oh, you're English, do you know the Beatles? And everybody asked that first question. And strangely enough, we'd had a song that we used to do at the Cavern called Mrs. Brown, You've Got a Lovely Daughter, which was an odd song. But we did it because Keith Hopwood bought a Gretsch Country Gentleman Chet Atkins guitar. And it had a little damper on it to make it sound like a banjo or something, some strange thing. So me and Keith rehearsed in his house with this guitar, and we eventually came up with Mrs. Brown, You've Got a Lovely Daughter. Let's do it. So and it had an English accent, which was kind of appealing at the time. Mrs. Brown, you've got a lovely daughter. Girls as sharp as her are something rare. But it's sad, she doesn't love me now. She's made it clear enough, it ain't no good to pine. You know it? She wants to return those things I bought her. Tell her she can keep them just the same. Things have changed, she doesn't love me now. She's made it clear enough, it ain't no good to pine. Walking about, even in a crowd, well, you pick her out. Makes a bloke feel so proud. Mrs. Brown, you've got a lovely daughter. Mrs. Brown, you've got a lovely daughter. There you go. So Ed Sullivan loved it. I saw somebody with an old Herman's Hermits LP. Just excuse me, who's that bloke who had the old Herman's Hermits, beautiful, original? So MGM, where is it? No, not a single. That's not a big picture of me. I want a big picture. There you go. This is it. So now we get on the Ed Sullivan Show. We thought we were going. Ed Sullivan loved Herman's Hermits, and we loved him. Maximum respect, because he didn't want to sing with the group. Every time you get on the show, they'd want to have a go. Can I join in? You'd sing. No. But Ed Sullivan just said, from Samoa, the Samoans. And then it was Herman's Hermits. And we got up there, and we loved Ed Sullivan, and we thought we were going to beat Topo Gigio. We thought we were going to get more appearances on this than the Dave Clark Five, the Beatles, and Topo Gigio. But Carl Green thought it'd be fun to call him Mr. Ed. Because we didn't know there was already a TV show with and Mr. Ed in it, and that they both shared the same teeth. New line for you, Harvey, there. So So this is what happened on the Ed Sullivan Show. See that, Harvey? Yeah. I'm leaning on the lamp. This is my lamp here. Now we're doing the English accent thing to the max, you know, because people are screaming when we go, oh, hello. Oh, you're English. I'm leaning on the lamp. Maybe you think I'm not a tramp. Or maybe you think I'm round to steal your car. Ha ha ha. But no, I'm not a crook. And if you think that's what I look, I will tell you why and what my motives are. I'm leaning on the lamppost at the corner of the street in case a certain little lady comes by. Oh me, oh my, in case a certain little lady comes by. She doesn't always get away, she cannot always get away, but anyone can understand why. Oh me, oh my, I forgot it. I just hope that little lady comes by. She's not the kind of girl to be late for, but this one I'd break any day for. I won't have to ask what she's late for. She'd never leave me flat, she's not a girl like that. She's wonderful, marvellous, fabulous, beautiful, and anyone can understand why. I'm leaning on the lamppost at the corner of the street in case a certain little lady comes by. Yeah, there you go. You may notice that Herman's first American album was called The Best of Herman's Hermits. Bit of a faux pas there, I think, Harvey. Uses it again. It's a beautiful record. Can I just thank you, Harvey, for inviting us to your book thing. I hope I didn't steal too much of the time. Say thank you to Vance Brescia, who flew here from New York under major stress just to get here because they cancelled all his flights and he drove overnight to Baltimore, where he doesn't know a single person. And yeah, and here we are. What should we do, Harvey? There's a kind of hush. That's a good one, isn't it? Or did you want me to do Henry VIII? I don't worry what. Which one? But okay, but we'll just do one verse of Henry. Well, there is only one verse of Henry VIII. We do the verse. To the widow next door. She's been married several times before, and everyone was an Henry. Wouldn't have a Willie or a Sam. I'm an 8-year-old man, I'm Henry. Henry I am. Second verse, same as the first. I'm Henry the 8th, I am. Henry the 8th, I am. I got married to the widow next door. She's been married several times before. Wouldn't tell a Willie or a Sam. I'm a 8-year-old man, I'm Henry. And already 8 I am. Henry. And already 8 I am. And already 8 I am. Ba-da-da, ba-da-ba-da. There's a kind of hush all over the world. I love this one. Mickey Mouse said when we recorded this, you got to do it in C. I said, but I feel that I'd feel much better if we could do it in D. And he said, listen, I can sing it in C. I said, but yeah, but I'm the singer. He said, but if I can sing it in C, everyone in the world will be able to sing along. Isn't that a great line? So it's in C. There's a kind of hush all over the world tonight, all over the world. You can hear the sounds of lovers in love. You know what I mean? Just the two of us and nobody else inside. There's nobody else, and we're feeling good, holding you tight. So listen very carefully, closer now, and you will see what I mean. It isn't a dream. The only sound that you will hear is
whisper in your ear, I love you. And put some clothes on forever and ever. There's a kind of hush all over the world tonight, all over the world. Oh, just like birds that fall in love. And all the children sing. La 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 la. This is like an exercise. La 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 la. Thank you. La 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 la. They're falling in love. They're falling in love. They're falling in love. I'm into something good, Harvey Lisberg. Thanks, Pressure. Hey, great sound, fellas. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Peter News!